There is a massive shift happening, and not everyone can see it. But those who do are changing their lives, their future, and even the trajectory of their nations. One of the most powerful examples of this transformation is what's currently unfolding in India, and this is precisely why figures like Donald Trump are worried, not out of fear of aggression, not because of politics in the traditional sense, but because of something far more powerful, a collective mindset shift. When the internal vibration of a people changes, the external world has no choice but to respond. That's what's happening right now. India is awakening, and when a sleeping giant wakes up, the world pays attention. For years, India was seen as a service provider, a land of support, not leadership. It was viewed as the back end of the global economy, not the front end of innovation and strategy. But that narrative is cracking. A new voice is rising from within, one that's rooted in self-belief, hunger, and clarity of purpose. You can feel it in the language people use, in the startups they're building, in the risks they're willing to take. The old belief systems, the ones that whispered you're not enough, stay in your lane, be grateful with what you have, are being challenged, broken, and rewritten. And this rewriting is not subtle, it's seismic. The power that comes from realizing you've been operating at 10% of your true capacity, and then deciding to turn up the dial, that power shakes empires. And that's why people like Trump, representatives of old world dominance, are alert. It's not about nationalism. It's about energetic positioning. For decades, America stood at the top of the influence pyramid, economically and psychologically. But now there's a new frequency rising, and it doesn't beg for validation. It creates, it builds, it exports confidence. And that new energy is coming from places like India, where millions are no longer waiting for permission to succeed. When a country full of people begins to stop seeing themselves as employees and starts seeing themselves as creators, producers, and global leaders, that's not just growth. That's a revolution. The kind of revolution that can't be stopped by sanctions or speeches or summits. Because it's internal, and the internal always creates the external. Just as your self-image shapes your results, a nation's collective self-image shapes its destiny, and India's image is shifting from "we can serve" to "we will lead." That's the vibration that shifts global equations. That's the frequency that makes other powers anxious, not because India is trying to dominate them, but because India no longer needs them. And this isn't just political. It's deeply personal, because the same energetic blueprint that a country uses to rise is the one you can use in your own life. The first thing that has to change is belief. Belief is a vibration, and when you change that, you alter everything that flows from it. That's what's happening in India right now. Belief is being rewritten, and that new belief is magnetizing opportunity, money, talent, and influence. It's no longer about waiting for a global handout. It's about owning your worth and stepping into the space as if you belong there, because you do. The people who once bowed to foreign corporations are now building their own. The minds that once feared risk are now obsessed with innovation. The culture that once glorified safety is now celebrating entrepreneurship. And this shift is not accidental. It's a response to pain, rejection, and decades of being underestimated. But instead of using that pain to stay small, India is transmuting it into power. That is alchemy, and that kind of alchemy makes people like Trump nervous, Because it means the power balance is being disrupted not through war or conflict, but through consciousness. When the mindset of a billion people shifts, markets shift, economies realign, institutions start to panic. Because those in power understand one universal truth. Everything begins in the mind, and if you can shape the minds of enough people, you reshape reality itself. That's what's happening right now. This isn't about GDP. It's about energy, and that energy is contagious. That's why other nations are not just watching, they're recalibrating. Because the underdog isn't just barking anymore, it's building empires. And the most threatening thing to an old system is a new system that no longer needs the old one. The real reason Trump is worried isn't because India might compete. It's because India might lead on its own terms. That kind of leadership doesn't come from imitation. It comes from vibration. It comes from clarity. It comes from a people who are tired of being told no, and who are now ready to tell the world yes without asking for approval. Every time you hear the word no, something happens inside of you. Most people recoil, they shrink. They take it as a personal failure, a rejection of their value, a confirmation that they are not good enough. But what if no isn't what we've been taught to believe it is? What if no is actually a signal from the universe that you are getting closer, that something inside you is being sculpted, prepared, refined? What if no is the very thing that's meant to wake you up, not break you down? You see, the most powerful people in the world are not the ones who never heard no. They are the ones who learned how to listen to it differently. They decoded the frequency of rejection and turned it into a blueprint for greatness. No is never final. It's a mirror. It shows you your limits, not so that you'll obey them, but so you'll rise above them. It is in rejection that your real power is revealed. Every no you've ever received was an invitation to go deeper, not retreat. The world may close one door, but only to nudge you toward the door that was really meant for you. The question is not how many times you've been told no, but what you did with that energy. Most people internalize it. They start building walls around their dreams. They shrink their vision to match their current results. But that's not how destiny is made. Destiny is made by those who take every rejection and let it burn inside them, let it fuel them, and let it stretch their capacity. This principle is what separates the few from the many. The majority allow rejection to write their story. The few take control of the pen. They learn to translate pain into purpose. Think of it. Every breakthrough in history has come from someone who refused to take no as the final answer. It's not just about being stubborn. It's about understanding universal law. The law of rhythm, the law of polarity, the law of gestation. These laws dictate that before something manifests in the physical, it must be born in the spiritual and mental planes. That means no on the outside can mean yes on the inside if you choose to interpret it that way. And this isn't just about business, success, or external wins. It's about your identity. Every time someone told you no, you're not smart enough, you're not ready, you're not good enough. They weren't defining you. They were reflecting their own limitations back at you. But if you don't know who you are, you'll accept their definition. That's where the real damage happens, not in the rejection itself, but in what you allow that rejection to mean. The moment you stop letting external voices overpower your internal knowing, you start reclaiming your life. You start building immunity to doubt. That's when no becomes a tool, not a threat. This is the very mechanism behind resilience. Resilience isn't toughness, it's awareness. It's knowing that life will throw no at you and that you are bigger than it. It's realizing that every no is shaping you, chiseling you, building spiritual muscle. Because to manifest anything on a large scale, you must be equal in power to the thing you want to attract. You must become the kind of person who is not just worthy of the dream, but strong enough to carry it. Rejection is the training ground for that strength. It stretches your capacity, it deepens your roots, it forges mental and emotional strength that no book or seminar can give you. You've probably heard the phrase rejection is redirection, but most people only understand it intellectually. To live that truth, you must trust the process. That means trusting that the doors that closed were never truly your doors, that the people who said no to you were not betraying you, but making space for the people who will say yes. And even when you feel angry or hurt, even when doubt creeps in, you must stay rooted in one truth. Life is always conspiring in your favor, especially when it doesn't feel like it. The truth is, you don't grow from comfort. You grow when something stings, when something stretches you, when something makes you question who you are. That's where transformation lives. That's the womb of power. That's where destiny is born, not in easy victories, but in the furnace of rejection. When you face enough no's, something sacred happens. You become unshakable. You stop asking for validation. You stop looking outward for permission, and you start building from within. So the next time someone tells you no, don't shrink. Expand. Don't close your heart, open it. Don't walk away in defeat. Walk forward with clarity, because that no might be the very moment your higher self is testing you, asking, are you ready yet? Not ready to receive, but ready to become. Because the yes you want is already waiting. It's just on the other side of who you're becoming. Most people are terrified of their own emotions. They spend their lives trying to run from what they feel, especially the so-called negative ones: fear, anger, sadness, frustration, jealousy, insecurity. These feelings are treated like enemies, like defects that need to be suppressed, avoided, or numbed. But what if that's not true? What if these emotions aren't flaws in your system, but untapped fuel waiting to be transmuted into power? You were never meant to reject your emotions, you were meant to understand them, to use them. Every negative emotion you feel carries a frequency, and inside that frequency is information. It's energy in motion, and energy is never wrong. But when you ignore it, suppress it, or bury it under distractions, you rob yourself of a powerful source of momentum. Look around at the people who have truly transformed, not those who pretend to be positive on the outside while crumbling inside, but those who have shifted realities, broken cycles, elevated their consciousness, and changed their life from the ground up. You'll find one common thread. They didn't escape their emotions. They leaned into them. They asked, "What is this trying to teach me?" And then they listened. That's the power of awareness. Awareness turns emotion into wisdom and wisdom into action. Fear, for example, is not your enemy. It's a messenger. It shows you where your growth is. It highlights the edge of your current paradigm, the mental wall you've built that you believe you can't go beyond. Fear shows up when you're standing at the border of transformation, but most people misread it. They treat it as a sign to stop. They think fear is a red light, when really it's a green light covered in fog. When you walk through it, when you move toward the thing you fear, you dissolve the illusion. The fear loses its grip and you reclaim power that was already yours. The same is true of anger. Anger is not evil. Anger is misdirected energy. It's the voice of a boundary that was crossed. It's a signal that something inside you has been ignored, violated, or suppressed. If you suppress that signal, it will leak out in unhealthy ways: arguments, resentment, emotional numbness. But if you learn to feel your anger, trace it back to its root, and ask yourself what needs to be reclaimed, then anger becomes clarity. Anger becomes fire. Fire that can burn bridges that no longer serve you. Fire that can light your path forward. Fire that says enough is enough and gives you the courage to change your life. Even sadness, which people often fear the most, is sacred. Sadness is an invitation to slow down, to look inward, to release something you've been carrying. It softens you. It makes space. It opens the heart that has been hardened by pressure and expectations. It's not weakness, it's recalibration. If you avoid sadness, you stay tense, rigid, emotionally locked. But if you sit with it, breathe through it, let it pass through you like a wave, you'll find that on the other side is not despair, but clarity. You'll see what matters. You'll remember what you've been neglecting. You'll reconnect to your center. What you resist persists. That's not just a cliche, it's a universal law. Resistance creates internal friction, but acceptance releases it. And when you release resistance, you create flow, and flow is the state where transformation happens. That's why using negative emotions doesn't mean indulging them or dramatizing them. It means working with them, feeling them fully, but not becoming them, observing them, but not identifying with them. That's how you move from being controlled by your emotions to commanding them. You don't suppress, you transmute. Transmutation is the secret ingredient that separates those who grow from those who stay stuck. The ones who grow have learned how to take pain and mold it into purpose. They've learned how to take loneliness and turn it into inner connection. They've taken rejection and shaped it into self-trust. That's the art. That's the alchemy. To feel deeply, but not drown. To listen to your emotions, but not let them steer the wheel. To welcome every part of you, even the parts the world told you to hide. This is especially powerful because everything you desire, abundance, love, peace, freedom, is already within you. But access to it is blocked by unprocessed emotions. Think of your emotional body like a river. When emotions are ignored or resisted, it's like throwing debris into that river. The flow slows down. The water gets stagnant. But when you let emotions move, when you stop judging them and start honoring them, the river clears. Energy returns. Inspiration flows. Ideas come. That's when you step into alignment. That's when your outer world starts matching your inner world. Too many people try to manifest a better life while still carrying emotional baggage they've never unpacked. It doesn't work that way. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. And if what you are is a tight ball of unresolved anger, guilt, and fear, then that energy will echo in every area of your life. But if you allow those feelings to surface, express, and be restructured, then your vibration changes. You become lighter, you become clearer, and the universe responds accordingly. Every emotion has a role. Every emotion has a lesson. Negative emotions are not blocks in your path. They are the path. Feel them. Learn from them, let them move, and you'll realize they were never trying to hurt you. They were trying to wake you up. There comes a moment in every person's life where the question shifts from "how do I survive?" to how do I lead. It's a subtle shift in language, but an explosive shift in energy. And this is exactly the kind of transformation that's taking place, not just within individuals, but across entire societies. India is becoming a mirror for this internal evolution. What was once a mindset of survival, scarcity, and playing it safe is now expanding into something bolder, conscious leadership. Not leadership by title, not leadership by position, but leadership by frequency, leadership that begins with how you think. Most people don't realize that the majority of their thoughts are not even their own. They're inherited, passed down, absorbed from the environment, conditioned by schooling, family, media, trauma, and repetition. These habitual patterns of thinking form what is known as a paradigm, a system of beliefs that governs your perception, your decisions, and your actions. And unless you consciously challenge this paradigm, you will keep living out the same script with different scenery. That's why so many people feel stuck. It's not the outside world that's holding them back. It's the internal story that never changes. This is what India as a nation is breaking out of right now, and it's the same process every individual must go through. The old paradigm was survival-based. Play it safe, don't ask questions, follow the rules, seek approval, stick with what's familiar. That paradigm worked when the goal was merely to endure, but now the game has changed. The world no longer rewards people for following instructions. It rewards vision. It rewards boldness. It rewards the ability to think independently, act decisively, and operate with a sense of personal power. And that can only happen when the paradigm shifts. This paradigm shift doesn't come from reading books alone. It doesn't happen by simply repeating affirmations or listening to motivational talks. Those things can plant seeds, but the real shift happens when you begin to question your own thoughts. When you hear a voice inside say, "You can't do that," and instead of obeying it, you stop and ask, "Who told me that? Where did I learn that? And is it even true?" This is the moment your old self starts to lose control. This is where freedom begins. For decades, India's dominant story was one of limitation. A nation that was dependent on foreign powers. A population that saw success as something to be imported, not created. But now the story is changing, and it's because individuals are changing. The youth are beginning to realize they don't have to follow the same patterns. They don't have to settle. They don't have to wait for someone to give them permission. And that is the essence of true leadership. Choosing to think differently, even when the world tells you to stay the same. You see, leadership is not about titles or followers. It's about vibration. It's about the energy you walk into a room with. It's about the decisions you make when no one's watching. It's about the internal standards you refuse to compromise. When enough people begin to lead themselves in this way, the collective energy rises, and that's what's happening across India. People are no longer asking, "What job can I get?" They're asking, "What value can I create?" They're not saying, "What's safe?" They're asking, "What's possible?" And here's the beautiful part, this shift is available to anyone, anywhere. The same mental leap India is making, you can make in your own life. It starts by recognizing that the paradigm you've been living in is not fixed. It's not truth, it's just a program. And programs can be rewritten. Most people are walking around with outdated mental software. Their hardware, meaning their potential, their creativity, their drive, is powerful. But they're still running programs written by fear, doubt, and limitation. You don't need more motivation. You need a system update. How do you update your paradigm? Through repetition and emotion. Through saturating your mind with new images, new thoughts, new beliefs again and again until the old wiring starts to dissolve. Through surrounding yourself with people who think bigger, act bolder, and challenge your assumptions. Through taking action before you feel ready, because readiness is not a condition, it's a decision. Every time you challenge the old paradigm, you weaken it. Every time you act from the new one, you reinforce it. And as this shift happens inside of you, the results outside of you begin to reflect it. You start attracting new opportunities. You start making decisions with clarity instead of fear. You stop reacting to life and begin creating it. That is the leap from survival to leadership, and it is the most powerful transformation a person or a nation can undergo. Because when you begin to lead yourself, you no longer wait for the world to change. You become the change. You stop playing the game by someone else's rules and start designing the game yourself. There's a common illusion that destiny is something external, something handed down to you, something etched in stone long before you had a say in it. But that belief is a trap. Destiny isn't written in the stars, it's written in your patterns, your thoughts, your energy, your decisions. It's not something that happens to you. It's something that responds to you. Most people don't realize this because they've been conditioned to see life as a linear cause and effect game. Do this, get that. Follow the rules, stay safe. Work hard, maybe you'll succeed. But reality, the real fabric of life, doesn't operate on rules as much as it operates on vibration, on alignment, on frequency. And once you grasp that, once you understand that you're not reacting to life but broadcasting into it, everything changes. Destiny is magnetic. It's not passive. It doesn't just show up one day like a package at your door. It is pulled toward you by the signal you're emitting, moment to moment. That signal is not just what you say, it's what you believe. It's not just what you hope for, it's what you're prepared to receive. And preparation doesn't mean strategy, it means identity. Who are you being, energetically, right now? What assumptions are you living with? What patterns are on loop in your subconscious? Because that is what destiny is listening to. Not your surface desires, but your internal script. And if that script says, I'm not enough, life is unfair, nothing ever works for me, then no matter how hard you try on the outside, you'll keep getting the same results. This is why true transformation never starts in the doing, it starts in the being. It starts when you stop chasing results and start reprogramming your identity. That means going deeper than logic, deeper than to-do lists. It means confronting the beliefs you've never questioned, the stories you've been telling yourself for years, stories inherited from family, society, school, past failures. Because here's the truth, your results will always match your self-image. If you see yourself as small, the world will mirror that back. If you see yourself as powerful, the world has no choice but to adapt. This is not wishful thinking. This is law. Just like gravity doesn't care whether you understand it, the law of vibration doesn't care whether you believe in it. It just responds. The frequency you operate from, your thoughts, your emotions, your expectations, sends a message into the field, and that field organizes itself to reflect your dominant energy. So when you change your inner world, your outer world must rearrange. That's why some people seem to get lucky over and over. It's not luck. It's alignment. They are aligned internally with the results they are experiencing externally. They became the kind of person who could hold that reality. And this is what India is doing on a collective level. For decades, the vibration was one of dependency, waiting for opportunity, being seen as a secondary player. But now the frequency is shifting. There's a new identity forming, an identity of power, creation, ownership. And that new identity is calling forth a new destiny. You can see it in the entrepreneurial spirit sweeping across the youth, in the confidence with which Indians are innovating, creating, investing, and leading. It's not because someone gave them permission. It's because they stopped asking for it. They started embodying the energy of leaders, and destiny began to respond. You have the same power within you. You don't need more time, more resources, or more validation. You need to become aware of the signal you're sending. Every time you complain, shrink, doubt yourself, hesitate, procrastinate, you're broadcasting a message to the universe: I'm not ready, and the universe listens. Not to punish you, but to match you. And every time you act with courage, even when you're scared, when you think a new thought, take a risk, invest in yourself, show up as if the thing you want is already yours, you send a new signal, and reality starts moving in your direction. Destiny is not static, it's dynamic. It bends and shapes according to your internal climate. That's why you can meet two people with the same background, the same struggles, the same resources, and yet one of them rises while the other stays stuck. It's not about luck or talent, it's about frequency. One is radiating belief, the other is radiating fear. And life responds accordingly. You must decide right now what frequency you're committed to living on. Not just when things are going well, but especially when they are not. That's where your power lies. In choosing your frequency in the midst of chaos. In holding your vision when everything around you suggests otherwise. It's easy to blame circumstances, to say, if I had what they had, I'd be successful too. But that mindset is powerless. It puts destiny out there, somewhere far away, when in reality, destiny is right here, inside of you. Waiting, watching, listening, responding. It doesn't ask, what do you want? It asks, who are you being? Are you being the version of yourself that's still waiting? Or the version that's already becoming? Because the moment you shift that identity, your actions shift, your energy shifts, and your results shift. That's when you stop chasing outcomes and start attracting them. Not because you forced them to happen, but because you became the kind of person who was a match for them.